right. The Path Podcast, episode 12, take one.
Welcome to the Path Podcast. It's Tuesday, November 30th. My name's Tani. I'm here with Auk. How's it going, Auk?
It's going well.
Good to see you, man.
It's good to see you too.
What have you been up to?
Well, so I got off work and I was trying to get my head into podcasting on the way here. And so I turned on a podcast, the outside podcast. And lo and behold, I listened to a not so cheery podcast. Like what happens to drivers when they kill cyclists?
Oh, gosh.
Can you imagine? Okay, I won't get into it. But I will say, I got clobbered by a driver once. I might have told the story long time ago.
You got hit by a car while riding a bike?
While riding a bike.
Wow,
and
terrifying.
This is probably, it's going on 20, maybe 15 years ago. The crazy thing is, after I got clobbered, clearly the driver's fault. Boom. Actually, she pulled in front of me and I couldn't stop. So
Why, you got to gender this person?
Oh man, you're right. This driver. And so, boom. And then she made an illegal, this driver made an illegal left. And so I'm picking myself up off the ground and I'm like, bleeding from my face. And I'm like, I think I'm okay. I can see and what have you. And then, out of the background, I hear this screaming and cursing at me. And we made eye contact. So I hear this screaming and cursing at me, and this driver is cussing me out. And so...
How dare you get hit by me?
The driver's child, at least I think, jumps out of the passenger side, and apple doesn't fall far from the tree, also starts laying into me. Nice thing was there's a whole bunch of cars on, that were backed up. And so several people got out of their cars and stood up for me. Started shouting the lady down, shouting this driver down.
Wow.
But anyways, what I was going to go to is, what do you say to the loved one on the other side of the phone when you've taken a hard crash, but you want to let them know that you're okay, but you also have to tell them that I got into a hard crash?
It's a tough one because even just opening up with, okay, so I'm okay, their heart rate's going to go up.
That's right.
So I don't know. That's a good question. I usually do open it up with, I'm okay, but.
I think that's a classic one because that's how I started. Yeah, I've used that one several times. And that's what I used this one night. And, my family was at a restaurant and I was actually riding my bike over when this happened. And I said, hi, I'm okay, but I'm definitely not going to be able to meet you guys for dinner tonight. And actually, I'm right down the street from you. So I tell her briefly, I said, I got in a little bit of a car accident and I'm here on the side of the road. If you just come down 17th Street towards me, towards Newport, you'll figure it out. And sure enough, as she's driving down the road, she says, well, there was a person fixing a flat on the side of the road, and I figured that wasn't you. And then when I looked up down the street a couple blocks, I see ambulance and fire truck and traffic and police. And she says, I think that's him.
No.
So lo and behold, that was me. I ended up fine. At least I think. You know what I mean? That might explain some things. Oh. Anyways.
Did you have a head injury?
I did. I had a impact laceration on my cheek.
Wow.
And that's where I learned you have a lot of blood vessels in your face.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so this might get us PG-13, but it was bleeding profusely.
Yeah.
And I actually thought, I'm like, oh my gosh, maybe my eye popped out.
Oh my gosh, that's a scary thought.
Right?
Because you probably were having a hard time seeing.
Yeah. And I was like, oh man, no, I can see. Where is this coming from? And sure enough, right on my cheekbone.
Did that driver continue to take the wrong side? And
that driver did. And when the police came, that driver was still going at it, so much so the police had to put her in the backseat of the cruiser.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so, police took care of everything. The ambulance took me to the Western Medical Center.
And that driver's insurance covered you?
So I didn't realize this, but yes, once it goes to the insurance companies, you're out of the loop. Yeah. The insurance companies take care of it and you really have nothing to say. I learned later that that driver was trying to fight it, and the insurance was, or that driver's insurance company was just like, sorry.
This is a losing battle. We don't fight losing battles.
Exactly. So anyways, that was,
Thanks for sharing. That's super gnarly. That's terrifying.
But it came out okay.
Yeah.
So the "I'm okay, but" line.
Yeah. You know, you've been in a bad crash when you have to apologize to your loved ones after.
Right. Exactly.
One time, my wife at the time picked me up from the hospital, and it wasn't that long after I'd had a pretty rough recovery where I had needed some care.
Right.
And this was going to be the beginning of another one. And I was just like, I'm so sorry.
Right.
Like,
oh, no. That's actually what has started me down a path of not riding such gnarly trails.
Just getting hit by the car.
Not so much the car, but the phenomenon that you said is
just needing care
and saying I'm sorry about it. Not so much the
That's
needing
an
care,
interesting point. You changed your behavior. You didn't just apologize.
Right. I was like, and I'm sorry again. Yeah. So, anyways, yeah. Like the broken ankle or like the broken wrist just takes you out of the scene at providing care for others.
Right.
So, yeah.
And even being kind of that emotional support for others sometimes.
Right.
Which is an important role for some people.
All right. No, that's very true. So, anyways, I'm okay, but, and try not to say sorry for it. I mean, try not to have it happen so many times that you have to say sorry for it, I think is the moral of the story.
Yeah. Try not to stress your support systems.
That's right. Anyways, should we hop on to shop news?
Yeah. So today was the last day of our Black November sale. Needless to say, we still have 2021 and 2022 bikes that we need to clear out. So the new project is more focused liquidation of some older bikes, and the discounts are deeper, like below our cost, like 40% off kind of stuff.
Wow. So
today we marked 16 2021 bikes down that kind of amount. Ooh. And it'll be kind of like that most days till we get rid of all of them.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I was looking. I won't say, but I was looking. That's impressive.
Did you see some of the numbers? Did you see what we did the Process X's at that we used to ride?
Oh my gosh, yes, I did.
You want to say it?
Can we?
Yeah.
So the Process X DLs, I think there's a large and an extra large at half off. Holy mackerel.
That makes the bike $35.99.
$35.99.
So this was a bike that I was pretty excited about, and I kind of bought it at like $9 and it ended up selling at like $6.
Right.
So we had some to liquidate, and they sold okay throughout our liquidation, and we still have a few left. And now it's time to just make examples of them for still being here.
Oh my gosh,
so to speak, or something.
I still actually ride mine.
It's a wonderful bike.
It is a wonderful bike.
Really playful and agile for a proper big mountain enduro, and light for a proper. Like, I think you could build that bike at 31 pounds or 30
Mine
pounds.
is 31 and a half.
Yeah,
mine is 31 and a half. Admit it's a air rear shock, and even with the coil rear shock, mine was just over 32.
And it climbs pretty well, I think.
It pedals very well, and yeah, very capable.
I think that paint job is polarizing. That kind of fade blue green paint job.
I love that paint job.
But that's what polarizing means. Is some people love it and some people hate it. But it probably automatically cuts out a little more of the market than I realized. Like maybe up to half. Right.
Yeah.
So hence why we have some really good deals on it.
Right.
Another kind of just example of what we were doing today. Trans X Advanced Pro 29.2 at $3,078. So that's a carbon bike, I think, with carbon rims.
Yes.
For just over $3,000. Yeah. And it's the X, so it's like a fairly newish Geo, and it's a bike I would ride.
I think I had the Trans Advance from 2021. Not the X. Not the X, but this is the X.
So this is the Trans Advanced X, so a little slacker head angle, a little more travel compared to what you had.
Yep.
Looks pretty similar. Really nice bike.
Yeah. Had that been available at the time that I bought mine, I think I would have bought that.
We got a huge one-up order into where like we had multiple days of people just stocking like $10,000 of one-up parts, kind of thing, like grips, dropper posts, remotes, but also like little chain guide parts. Like we stocked up on one-up stuff. So check that out.
Yeah. that one-up dropper is, I think, is still the lightest or one of the lightest dropper posts you can get.
Yeah, and I don't know if you remember, but one time on this podcast, I stated something. I said, if someone makes a dropper post that can be shimmed down so that we can get everyone fully hilted, we're going to sell so many of that dropper post. And there you go. One Up did that, and we sold so many of them.
Yeah.
And now they're not the only one, but they're still one of the best ones.
Yep. And I just picked up one of their bars because you stocked up on them.
Well, and they are my favorite bar.
Yeah.
Because of the vibration damping.
Yep.
And I think that's real. Like when you go back to a other bar after riding a One Up, it is harsh.
So I have, I think, one proper ride and one sort of half ride on that bar. And I think the proper ride, because I'm a certain age, I think my joints hurt less after I was done. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm going to cut it down, though, from 800 to 760. Anyway.
It's interesting how as our kind of systems get weaker, they become indicators of other things, strength, other good things.
Yes.
They become the canaries in the coal mine.
Yeah, so I got that. Oh, yeah. The other thing that you have a pretty good stock on is the Spank stems, which come in both 31.8 and 35 millimeter, and they also come in differing lengths.
Lots of lengths.
Lots of lengths.
And lots of fun faceplate colors.
Yep. So I'm now matching because of the Spank stem, very close to matching my fork offset with the stem length.
Another thing we've talked about on the show. I still feel like that's a good thing.
I have 2 rides on it.
Is this the first time you've matched those intentionally? Maybe unintentionally?
Intentionally. Because I went from a 35 millimeter stem.
Can you feel it?
Well, I have 2 rides on it. And I've been doing, the dirt has definitely come back for me. So I've been riding quite a bit. And both push bike and e-bike. And I'll tell you, I don't know if it's because I've been riding more or in part because of the stem length and the vibration damping bars. But everything is feeling really good right now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So anyways.
Should we revisit the Wild? Last show we talked about the Wild and we didn't have numbers yet.
Yes.
So we kind of speculated. Now we know it comes in small, medium, large, and extra large. We didn't know if it came in extra large on the last show.
Right.
64-degree head angle. We speculated that it might be around there, but we didn't know.
Yep.
What else do we got?
Reach. Yeah, that's 64. So just on that 64-degree head angle, I think that's a 1.5 degree slacking out.
Right.
So that's significant. That 64, that's a proper head angle now.
What I tell customers is most people can feel a degree. Sensitive riders can feel half a degree.
Right. This is 1.5 degrees.
Yeah, that's a big change.
Yeah. And that's really, that head angle now is pretty proper with other longer travel bikes these days.
Yeah.
So maybe not the slackest. We're getting there. Reach. How about the reach?
I'm 485 to 505 on the XL?
Oh, that's 20 millimeters.
That's the change. So the old one was 485 and the new one's 505.
Yep.
And that's generally the change of between 2 bike sizes is 20 millimeters of reach. So that's a big change for the XL to go up that much in reach. And I actually had a customer in the store the other day who's, while shopping for e-bikes with me, scratched the Wild off the list because the XL didn't have a long enough reach for him.
Ooh.
So maybe that customer will be stoked to see that.
Yes.
What do you got? You want to talk about RevTown?
Yes, I do.
So the weather's cold. I did my first ride on my new Rainy.
Oh, nice.
I got a new Rainy.
Right.
It's stock except for CushCore, Kona Wawa pedals, a 1-up bar.
Yep.
And cut to 780 and my Spank saddle.
Oh.
And tires are not stock either. Right. 2.5 million front and rear.
Got it.
And took it down to San Clemente and it was kind of cold out. I almost did my first stretchy pants ride, but then the sun came out.
Oh.
But last winter, I was all about the stretchy pants on the colder days.
Jeans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
And you're doing RevTown jeans.
That's what that's what kind of fits me good and is like a thickness that I like and a stretch. They're not like full, like.
I'm trying not to be awkward and Google your jeans on the podcast. Okay.
They're not like full, performance sweatpants that look like jeans.
Yep.
But they're almost that comfortable.
Right. So it's got more stretch than, it's got a decent amount of stretch.
It's got a decent amount of stretch.
Because some of the stretchy pants don't have much stretch these days. They call them stretchy pants, but they're not really. And others have that's a good stretchy pants.
Little stretch test.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of like a squish test.
That's right. Yeah, so, okay.
And they're a heavy enough weight to where they still kind of have a wear life like denim.
Right.
Where some of them are kind of a little thin. Yeah.
RevTown. All right, I'm going to check that out.
I understand you've been trying Flight Attendant. I think that's pretty noteworthy.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Before we get on to that, real quick shout out to FSA.
Yeah.
The company. Full speed ahead. I found a unicorn part from them.
Okay. So
the new Rain E's have a 1.8 steerer on them.
Yep.
So comes with a 1.8 steerer on the fork, obviously. But there's not a lot of 1.8 forks.
Yep.
And my fork that I had, it was a Zeb Ultimate with a Vorsprung coil smash pot conversion on it. Felt great. Jesse here at the shop put it together for me. Thank you very much, Jesse. But it's got a 1.5-inch steerer on it.
Yep.
And I couldn't find a converter, like a crown race. So FSA has 1.8 to 1.5 converters.
Okay. Nice.
So I called them up. I did some Google searching, called them up directly.
So you can run a normal tapered fork on a bike that had a 1.8 fork without changing your headset.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And so
a lot of our listeners probably don't realize yet, and they're probably going to be pretty maybe emotional to find out that there's a new steer tube diameter.
I know. I didn't realize that when I got the Rain E.
Yeah.
And so I was swapping parts. I'm like, oh man, can't wait to get my, Zeb Ultimate with the smash pot on this thing. Is going to be super fun. I pulled the old fork off, put the new one on. I'm like, don't, something's not right. So,
and you can't just get a different headset because it's got headset routing, right? Or no, the Rain doesn't. The Rain doesn't.
So you could have gotten a headset.
But it's nice not to have to.
Yep. And so, but I don't know if they're readily available right now. And so I was like, well, don't get me wrong. The domain that came on it served me well for, I don't know, 15,000 feet of descending. And so the fork and I have the Rain E3. So yeah, called up FSA. They're like, hey, sorry, this thing's maybe a couple months out. I said, okay, just, put me on the wait list.
Yeah.
And sure enough, like maybe actually a month later, I get a call from them, email, hey, actually it was a call. They called me. Hey, that part is still in, do you still want it?
Nice.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually ended up getting two. So
direct from FSA.
Direct from FSA.
Nice. Awesome.
So they knew about the shop and
it
was cool, obviously. Maybe not obviously, but.
It's hard to say. It depends who you get a hold of at any place.
Right. So if you need a converter, nice. I've got
one. My Rain E came with a little nicer fork, so I probably won't be changing it out.
What fork did yours come with?
What's the new high-end RockShox called? That's why the Zeb.
The Zeb
came with Zeb.
Yeah,
which feels pretty good so far out of the box.
Yeah. I was impressed with how the domain felt too.
Yeah. I think I do want to get the air spring on the Zeb buttered up a little bit for better plushness.
Right. My tri-coil conversion.
Tri-coil conversion?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that could be cool too. Yeah, first ride on that bike, like 2,900 feet of climbing in like an hour and a half. Rode most of the trails at San Clemente and kind of PR'd a few and
Nice.
without trying to go fast at all, just because that bike, it kind of rips.
It does.
The rainy.
You know, the bottom bracket is a hair's width under 13.
Really low.
Really low. I think advertised is 13.35 or something like that.
We've talked about it before, but we haven't talked in a long time about why we like low bottom brackets.
Yeah, that's true. We can talk about it a little bit more.
I mean, I think it's worth pointing out just two key things.
Yep.
One is transition from corner to corner is quicker and it doesn't have as high of a high point.
Yes.
And another is that it's harder to go over the bars with the lower bottom bracket.
Yeah.
Those two are pretty big for me.
Yeah.
And you feel more, as our friend Andrew once said, you feel more like you're inside of a rectangle and less like you're on top of a square.
That's good. I got to remember that. I'll have to listen to the podcast and watch it on YouTube. Hey, we're on video, by the way.
It's pretty creepy, isn't it?
It is. 'Cause you keep looking at me. I'm kidding.
You're talking to me.
I'm talking to you. You're staring at my pants. What do you expect here? There's going to be some awkwardness. I do really notice that I haven't noticed it on necessarily, but more recently, man, that lower high point as you go switching from corner to corner.
Right?
Yeah, I do notice it on this bike. Yeah.
It's much more of a just tilting the bike from side to side and less of an arcing like trip upwards.
Yes.
To get from one lean angle to the other lean angle. And that's a big deal. And that also really throws off all the other kinematics of the bike less.
Right. You know, it's interesting on this particular thing, and I don't know if it's because I've been maybe kind of trying to focus on it, but not so much the only thing to focus on, but kind of like finding the apex of your corner and then looking at that early, like identifying the apex of your corner early and then identifying the exit as you come through the corner early. And that transition from apex to corner, like that kind of swooping and then kind of doing the same thing on an S turn, so natural on the rain. And I think part of it is that low bottom bracket.
That's an interesting theory. Because you're not getting disrupted by other things as much.
That's what I feel like.
Yeah.
And which is I do also notice, because I didn't have the courage to cut my 800 bars, brand new 800 one-up bars straight down to 760. But after 1.5 rides, I'm going to cut them down to 760.
And did you notice what crank length your bike came with?
I think it's 160.
Yeah, mine came with 160s, which, again, shout out to Giant for being with it on this.
Yeah.
And I was talking to the Giant product people, and I told them our theories on crank lengths.
Yep.
And they were like, yep, totally. And the bottom brackets are going to get lower to go with it, kind of thing. So, like, yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. And I like that as we run shorter cranks for other reasons, bottom brackets can get lower without having pedal strikes.
Yes, I agree. I would have gone 155, but,
And I'm going to always probably beat this dead horse a little bit because I feel like it's a take that isn't being talked about a lot that I think is really valid. Mm-hmm. With the mixed wheel sizes, since we're talking about low bottom brackets, we're talking about bottom bracket drop, right?
Right.
And something I just keep coming back to in the shop that I feel like I'm kind of like singing alone on a lot of the time for some reason is this concept that one of the really cool things about mixed wheel size bikes is the mixed bottom bracket drop. In other words, bottom bracket height is an interesting number to look at, but the reason it's interesting is because it's an indicator of it's an indicator of bottom bracket drop.
Yeah.
And with more bottom bracket drop, it's harder to pick the other wheel up.
Yeah. And so
it's really planted.
Yeah.
So that's why it's hard to go over the bars on a 29er with a low bottom bracket because of the low bottom bracket and the higher axle line, it's got a lot of drop. And what we're talking about here is if you drew a line, like if you drew a line parallel to the ground through the axle over to the bottom bracket, however much higher that line is than the center of the bottom bracket, that's the bottom bracket drop.
Yep.
So from the axle line on a 27.5 to the axle line on 29. That's about 3/4 of a difference in bottom bracket drop, which is huge in the world of bike design and bottom bracket drop. And really the difference between a bike that's designed for high speed and stable versus the bike that's designed for mid-speed agility.
Right.
And so hence business in the front, party in the back. You have that mid-speed agility for the party in the back. And a lot of times that gets attributed to the shorter chainstays. And I do think that's part of the story.
Right.
But I think the unsung hero of mixed wheel sizes is the mixed bottom bracket drop.
I agree with that because you have less of a drop on the rear, you don't suffer from that increased difficulty of getting the front wheel up.
Correct. Yeah. And that's really the real kind of most boiled down version of it. But I think there's some other little dynamics that are kind of related to that too. But having to do with weighting and unweighting wheels and.
Yeah, I wonder if that's playing into all of this too. Yeah, maybe I have to do some homework and draw some pictures again.
Like I think it's easier to weight the wheel with more bottom bracket drop. Hence, you want to weight that front wheel, but I like to be able to let the rear wheel get light and drift around a little bit.
Right.
And less bottom bracket drop again, allowing for that other way in which so this is another dynamic that we've talked about is the mixed wheel size, the rear wheel is a little driftier.
Right.
And that is attributed mostly by most people to tire patch, I think.
Right.
Which I think is, again, part of the story. But I think having less bottom bracket drop in the rear wheel is also part of why it's a driftier rear wheel.
Right.
Or just, I don't know. See, I don't know if that theory holds up or not, but I think it's my theory. I like to do those on this show.
Yeah.
Sometimes they hold up.
I was just thinking about bro science.
Yeah.
I think bro science is an important part of discovery.
Oh, absolutely. All new discoveries come from the cacophony of everyone who's wrong. I don't know if
that's a lot of bro sciencing. I was in another environment and talking in a space where the individuals in the room of whom I was part, I like to think we actually knew a little bit about what we were talking about.
Yeah.
But there was a decent amount of bro sciencing going on, and I was just chuckling, and in a moment of like tension, because there are different opinions.
Like my bro science is better than your bro science.
Yeah, exactly. And it's pretty informed though. And so
I know enough to get in trouble, and so do you.
There's some solid bro sciencing going on. And then I stopped and I said, that's not to say that we should stop, because this is actually driving us to discovery in not just this space, but possibly other spaces that we need to push things forward in from a knowledge perspective.
Right. I mean, the cliche is that you have to get outside the box, right?
Right. Bro sciencing
and all the stuff that qualifies as not bro science is inside the box.
That's right. That's right. Sometimes you just,
But I think to do proper, like really, really high level outside the box thinking, you have to know everything in the box or mostly what's in the box.
Yes.
So you can break the rules with authority.
That is, yep. And in this.
But that's tricky because once you know everything in the box, it's hard not to believe all the stories of the box.
Yes. This space, we were talking pretty close to a box that we are very well informed on.
Right.
And so I think it is helpful when we were maybe standing on top of the box and it was helping us like enlarge the box.
Oh, right.
Cool. And so anyways, that was.
And sometimes that comes from inside and sometimes it comes from outside. And sometimes it just comes from parts of the system that you wouldn't expect it to come from, like a bike tech.
Right. And this is why even in those spaces at this one particular instance, it was a couple fairly high level people having a conversation. Not that I would include myself in that population or in that comment, but
about something related to their expertise in the profession.
Yeah. But what I realized too is in this type of exploration and thought exercise, people who work in the details or who might be like maybe don't have as much seniority or experience in this space really take time to listen to them, because they will definitely help they'll help the bro science along. It's, so I really enjoy that. It's a great leveler.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so many assumptions involved in everything that we don't realize that we're making. And then someone realizes there's an assumption being made somewhere. That's
a good point.
Yeah. It's a crazy world. I love ideas.
Sort of related to new bikes. So that was kind of cool. We both have Giant Rain E's, which are a lot of fun to ride. And I did take mine. I think I got 27 miles, 5,000, maybe 5,200 feet of climbing on one battery charge on my Rain E. I was a mix of boost, a lot of three bar boosting, not full power, but it was good times. It's a lot of distance.
We'll have to get out on our Rainies.
Yes.
I do want to bring up another thing from the last show. You kind of called me out on my full boost Harding Joplin ride and pointed out that I probably didn't do that on my 540 watt hour battery.
I think so, right.
On a 2019 Taser Pro.
Right.
And so I was kind of trying to revisit my recollections and try to just see if I could remember. And I do think I spent quite a bit of time in eco on all the climbs after Old Camp for sure.
Yeah.
And a little bit of time in eco, some time in eco on the traverse / climb from Four Corners up. I think I was full boost for all of Harding. But also,
that's pretty good.
In trying to mount a defense for myself, I did a little research.
Okay.
And that bike had a 70 Newton meter motor.
Oh, yeah.
So full boost may not mean what you think it means.
Right.
Because you might have been thinking of an 85 Newton meter motor at full boost.
Yes. So it was maybe 70 is like a 4 or a 3 bar boost.
Perhaps. Well, let's just say that I don't know if watt hour consumption is a linear ratio to Newton meters, but let's just say that it's probably not way off.
Yep.
And just the difference between 70 Newton meters and 85 Newton meters is pretty significant, like about 20%. Yeah. So like, that would explain 20% of my wrongness, maybe.
I'm only 20% wrong. But
let's just say I was like 30 or 40% from being right. Now I'm only 10% from being right.
That's right. I'll give it to you. But your experience of, quote, full boosting up the 9-mile fire road climb that is Harding here in Southern California.
Yeah.
And that's maybe 2,800 feet of the total climb.
Maybe.
At full boost, if you do that, that's like an hour, maybe about an hour, just under an hour. The rest of that climb or the rest of the ride maps onto what I had to do once too. Eco most of the climbs.
Right. Right. It just kind of levels out the time back out.
Right. But it is really nerve-wracking when I actually ran out of battery on the last big climb out of from the top of the luge back out at San Diego Truck Trail.
I was always really impressed with the range on that 2019 Taser Pro with that battery size. And I always was kind of surprised at like riders I could have the same range as. Right. And I think this is part of the story. It just didn't have as many Newton meters.
I think so.
It's kind of interesting. And really another way of thinking about that is it's closer to a Rise Newton meters than it is to a Wild Newton meters. A little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it really is, right?
With Rise being 60, Wild being 85, 70 is closer to a Rise. And then my story starts to almost add up.
I like how you do this.
No, I definitely did Harding to Joplin. I definitely did it on a whim in like not riding a tire and not enough equipment and probably a little irresponsible. Like I just thought I was going to shoot up Harding for a minute and ended up doing Harding Joplin.
Yep. And that's why you did full boost.
That's why I boosted for quite a bit of it. Yep. And there was kind of this, I just boosted this far and I have this many bars left. Like I think I can get through this pretty good. And then there was kind of a moment of like, oh, I think I'm going to have to spend some time in eco. And like, oh, this climb is longer than I remember out of Old Camp and out of, there was that. Yeah,
the climb from that Four Corners up to the entrance to Joplin is pretty long.
And I think I was like starting to play with trail and stuff from Four Corners up.
Right.
And trail and eco even probably.
Right. Yeah, so if you do 3 bars up Harding, to me, it was just as fun. And you can run that 3 bars the whole ride. And
do you think we can do our rain ease on full boost to Harding Joplin?
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think so.
Probably not.
It's because of the 85 Newton meters.
Those pesky Newton meters.
It's too high of torque. We might be able to do 70, which might actually be 3 or 4 bars. Yeah. Which is what I did. Oh, that's
and that was how long?
Just under 2 hours.
Nice.
Maybe 2 hours and 1 minute, but that included dropping the luge and then climbing back out.
What kind of condition is Joplin in?
Well, this was right before that really hard rain.
Oh.
It was in primo condition. And then a really hard rain came. And then I think Keith and others have been doing a lot of work in the past couple of weeks.
I bet it's in good shape.
It's going to rain again. It's supposed to rain tomorrow.
You think hard enough to cause issues? That trail's pretty rain resistant, I feel like.
It is. Man, maybe we go Saturday morning.
Maybe. I have so much work stuff going on right now. You know, we bought that building and I'm trying to plan a move. And
that's right.
Yeah, I'm still trying to get some rides in every week, but I think for a while it's going to be more quick catch as catch can. Yep. Although I do need to like have that little tension breaker and get a good long ride on the Santa Anas. That sounds so good. Maybe we'll make time soon.
It's not as big of a commitment as you think when you can get it done in 2 hours.
It's not that much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's probably faster than you could shuttle it back in the day.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Because you got to go back up and get the car at the top.
I wonder if I'll ever beat my personal previous best on Joplin for the descent.
Yeah.
I think it was like mid to low teens. And I thought that was pretty good. And I saw people getting into the 10-minute range.
Oh my gosh.
Like, wow.
Yeah. I was thinking about that when I rode it the other day. That's quick.
Yeah, I'll probably never get back there. That was, I think, before I was of a certain age.
That's right. Before you might have said, I'm okay, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Right.
For sure before I broke my ankle off. Before I broke my foot off my leg.
Oh, man. Yeah. So the new building. I got to see the new building, all.
Thanks for coming and checking it out.
No, thank you for taking me.
The old Tustin News.
Yeah, the old Tustin News where they actually used to print newspapers.
Yep.
That is cool.
It's kind of cool. They've already got a really nice air compressor and the thing to take the moisture out of the air for the air compressor already installed with airlines and everything from the workstations for the print press.
And they've got a gigantic, what do you call it, like a indoor crane.
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to keep that. I don't think we need it.
I mean, it'll lift any e-bike.
There's solar all over the building, which I think it works. It seems like it works. I'm going to have to get it checked out, I think.
Yep. With solar on top. I saw that all the converters. Inverters.
I believe they're inverters.
Inverters. Thank you for the correction so we don't have to come back and do that in the next show. I like the layout. So the layout is, you walk in to the front door, and it's kind of an L shape.
It's the building is more or less a square, like slightly rectangular square.
Yep.
And it's a block wall building. And then inside the building, there's a smaller square of block walls. And on the outside of that smaller square, there's an L shape.
Yeah. And that L shape, I think you're maybe thinking that's going to be display and
that'll be the customer area.
Customer area. The thing I liked about that is it's got some really nice windows on that. Nice.
The windows are new. They got replaced by the previous owner before the sale.
Yep. Big windows, display windows facing kind of the residential side of things. So it's got, I think, good curb appeal. And the storage area and workshops maybe.
I think we're going to be way more efficient there.
Yeah, we talked about that, right?
Yeah.
And clearly, when you first walk in, clearly going to be the case.
And I think we'll be able to present, Sometimes I like to think of the shop as like a restaurant because I come from food service with the back of the house and the front of the house. Other times I kind of think of it as it's a show that we're putting on and everything's kind of part of the prop of the show. Yeah. And the show is, what it looks like to have fun with mountain bike toys. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And why it's a good show is because that's really what we're doing is having fun with mountain bike toys. But I think it'll be a better show over there. I think it'll be a better setting and a better stage, better lighting, better space, more open, a little bit more space. Yeah. A little bit more usable space. I think it's going to be good. I'm really optimistic about it and super. I mean, more than once lately, I've woken up in the middle of the night in like deep panic about it. Also, as some people have pointed out, it's not necessarily the most comfortable time to take on a big new asset. And then also anytime you move a bike shop, that's like, oh, you're going to move a bike shop, right? Like I've had friends tell me they're moving their bike shops, and I'm like, oh.
I was just looking around because we're obviously recording here at the shop in Tustin, and I was looking around at the layout, and I love this space. But I like the potential to have that like narrative as you walk in and kind of walk through an entire space, in one continuous L. Right. Yeah, that'll be exciting to see how that comes along.
I'm excited. What do you think of this idea? This is kind of a zany idea of mine. I kind of want to plant fruit trees all around, all over the property, like avocados and oranges and whatever else goes well around here.
Peaches.
Yeah. I mean, there's a bunch of downsides, right? Like it makes a mess. It attracts rats.
Avocado trees, maybe not.
An avocado tree would be on the list. Yeah. The people who own the property put in some cool California Bay seedling or small trees that are just now planted. Right. And they're cool. I like them. Right. But I kind of have this idea of replacing some of them with fruit-bearing trees.
That would be cool.
I mean, what if all the staff could always get a bunch of avocados and oranges and stuff? Yeah. And customers, wouldn't that? I don't know. I enjoy giving people citrus. My house has legacy citrus trees in it, or just old citrus trees from the previous owner, and it's fun giving people the food that grew. I would agree with that, and it's tasty.
Haas avocados, especially.
Haas are your one.
Yeah, that would get my vote.
My top ranked avocado. I like Fuertes a lot as far as what you can see all the time. Reeds, though. Reed avocados. They're like the big softball kind of round looking ones. Oh yeah. And they're really nutty. The flavor's really nutty and buttery.
I agree with you.
Reeds are really good, but they don't hold up as where Haas, what I've been told is that the reason Haas are the ones you see everywhere is because they hold up well.
I like the flavor of the Haas.
They are really good.
Over the Fuertes.
Yeah. I could see that. Yeah. Like a little bit more like almost tanniny or like a slight bitterness that's kind of nice in the Haas.
That's a good. But you actually shared a Reed avocado with me one time, and I really liked that.
Really rich and nutty and smooth and buttery.
Yeah, nuttery.
Yeah.
I would cast my vote for fruit trees.
Yeah? Yeah. All right. Maybe we'll do that. I think it's kind of like a fun idea and kind of just one of those ways that, so there's a taco place I like to go to in Santa Ana. It's called Navarro's. I highly recommend it. Yep. They were hot on the birria before birria was the hot thing. Right. And they do a cabeza taco that I can't believe how much I like it. Cabeza.
Yeah, it is really good.
Which is like the cheek meat. Yep. Super tender and sensitive. Yep. Super tender and juicy and moist. Yep. I said it again.
You said it again. Yeah, it's okay.
But they have banana trees and all kinds of fruit. They have, in their parking lot, they have maybe just a foot or two of dirt between the parking lot and the wall to the neighbor. And they have all this fruit growing. And it's kind of cool. Yeah. And I suspect they're using it. I imagine. Yeah. I mean, and like big stalks of bananas, like tropical fruit that I don't know.
It's kind of an interesting thing to see a banana tree.
Yeah. Yeah. Someone has some tricks, I think.
Oh yeah.
Must be. And I've talked a little bit to the dude who's doing it. He's pretty cool. All by hand, one old dude, hand shovel.
Oh my
He's
gosh.
just doing cool stuff.
That's awesome. If you do peaches, put little netting on them when they start getting ripe.
So the rats don't get them?
Yep. It really does work. It really does work.
That sounds like a lot of work.
It is work. Worth it.
But peaches are good.
Peaches are good. Maybe you don't grow peaches because they are a lot of work.
Because of the rats.
Because the rats. Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if there's another solution, like something you can put around the trunk of the tree that stops the rats or something.
I'm not sure it's just rats. I think
Birds.
birds and bugs.
Bugs.
Yeah. Beetles.
Dang, beetles. Yeah. I had a bunch of beetles fly out of one of my grapefruits recently.
No.
Yeah.
They're eating your grapefruits.
I think after the grapefruit got compromised by a rat, maybe.
Got it.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. So, other bikes.
You got a new bike. Another new bike.
I got another new bike.
Another
one. I bought the Giant Trance SE, the 2023, and it's 135 on the rear and 150 on the front. You could mullet it. It has a flip chip, and let's see what else. Comes with the RockShox Ultimate rear shock and a Lyric Ultimate on the front.
And it's okay. Yeah. No in-frame storage, right?
No in-frame storage. Let's see. I think the angles are 64 and a half, maybe 65.
I think it's the same frame we were talking about earlier being on sale, just different parts.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
It's a
Trans-X Advanced frame.
Yep. So that's awesome. It is a little bummer that it's the 2023 and it's the same frame. But the interesting thing that they added was Flight Attendant.
That was a late 2021, almost 2022 edition.
Yeah.
It's still pretty modern.
Man, so if anyone wants kind of the equivalent bike of what I'm talking about, you can get 50% off.
Flight Attendant, though. You're riding Flight Attendant.
Flight Attendant. Yeah, so Flight Attendant is SRAM's version of the electronically controlled suspension system.
Kind of like a competitor to Fox's Live Valve.
Kind of a competitor to Fox's Live Valve. Fox, it's interesting. Giant's jumping on both of these bandwagons.
Live Valve and Flight Attendant.
Because you're riding a Live Valve.
I have a regular Trance, the shorter travel with in-frame storage that came with Live Valve.
Yes. And so that's kind of cool. So I was intrigued by Flight Attendant. So Flight Attendant is SRAM's version. It's maybe a couple differences. One, it's fully wireless. And so I think Live Valve is wired and has several sensors that kind of mount to one to the fork, one to the chainstay, accelerometers and clinometers. So kind of tells you if the bike is tilted, if the bike is jarred, over bumps, things like that. So similar. Live Valve Flight Attendant has a sensor in the fork, has a sensor in the shock, as well as solenoids in the fork and the shock. And then it also has something that the Live Valve does not have. Flight Attendant has a sensor in the crank.
Okay. For torque?
To sense pedaling.
Right.
Yeah, torque. So I don't know if it's torque or if it just senses that it's rotating.
Okay, so it knows to give you support for pedaling. When
right. So when you're pedaling.
That's Flight Attendant.
So I don't know if Flight Attendant has.
Oh, that's Live Valve. That has that.
Sorry. I'm getting all confused.
It is confusing.
It is. So Flight Attendant is the SRAM.
Yeah.
And it has a fork sensor, a shock sensor, and a pedal sensor.
Okay.
And so Live Valve does not have the pedal sensor.
Got it.
And so Flight Attendant, my understanding of what's going on is there's 3 settings that it cycles through. It cycles through full open. There's a pedal setting, which is kind of in the middle, and then there's a firm setting. So depending on what the sensors are telling, telling the story. It's like the sensors craft a story, a narrative of what's going on. It even looks backwards 5 seconds to, help determine what the next.
Damping settings when I was a child.
Exactly. So, what I thought was really interesting is that when I first talked to Brian here at the shop about it, because he went to the giant launch where they rolled out the flight attendant, he was saying that the setting that they had it in kept it too firm over like punchy ledgy climbs. He felt like it was staying in the firm setting too much. And so flight attendant has the ability has like 5 different settings. And so you can set it to be have a greater propensity to open, to go full open, or have a firmer, setting. After hearing that, I set mine full bias to open.
Okay.
But what I was reading.
You do that with an app?
You do that with an app, right? So it is set with an app. I think you can do that through controls on the fork itself. One interesting thing is you're going to be running, if you run full axis, you'll have 4
AXS
batteries attached to the frame. I don't think the flight attendant is any heavier than live valve. It has about 300 grams or something like that, according to,
so they both add almost a pound, not quite a pound.
Right. We'll get into that a little bit later. But with the flight attendant that I learned is that the default setting is going to be open.
This is what jumped out at me about the article you sent me.
Yeah. The difference between the two systems.
The SRAM flight attendant system defaults to open.
Yep.
Fox Live Valve defaults to closed.
Yep.
That really jumped. You sent me that pink bike article about this.
Yep.
That was the thing that really jumped out at me from that article.
Yeah.
And also it's interesting to me that then the flight attendant went on the live valve that defaults to closed went on the trans with less travel.
Oh, yes.
And the SRAM system, the flight attendant that defaults to open went on the longer travel trans. I wonder if Giant thought that through that way and decided, the bike that's a little bit more for the downhill, we're going to make it default to open, and the bike that's more climbing oriented, we're going to make it default to closed. Maybe
I could see that,
but I wish the Fox defaulted to open. I think,
and it made me think about your experience.
Right.
Yeah.
In a past show, we talked about this moment I had where it felt like the live valve was locked out on the landing of kind of a little moment.
It's like a smooth transition, high speed over a rock roller into a
kind of a step down where there's the ground gives away to nothing for a minute, and then there's kind of a hard landing where there's not really a landing. So
you could see the bike, quote unquote, being confused about, am I still just riding along?
Maybe it didn't know it was in the air. I don't know.
That's right. That's what I was kind of thinking. Because the acceleration over that rock that we were talking about is a pretty smooth acceleration up and over, and then the drop, and then you're off.
Sudden harshness for a minute on the landing, because there is a transition on the landing, but it's not much of one.
Right.
And it's not very long, and it's really easy to overshoot a little bit or undershoot it a little bit.
Right. So I haven't had any of those feelings on the flight attendant system. I have kept it on the full open or full open bias. I am planning to try and set it to the full closed bias, most firm bias, and see what happens.
Do you like it so far?
I do.
A lot?
I like it a lot. I like it on techie punchy climbs. This is one maybe drawback on the flight attendant versus live valve. You can hear it.
You can hear the damper settings opening and closing with little motors that open and close them.
Yep. And so it just is. I mean, I kind of like it, but I can see how some people wouldn't like that.
Little transformer noises.
Yeah, exactly. And so the thing that I like is on these punchy climbs, you could go from pedaling and you're trying to do like a little power ratchet move over a little ledge, and that rear wheel, like you can hear it change from pedal or firm to open because it senses like a little power, like a little jolt. And I don't know if it's just me, but just kind of not feeling like my rear wheel is spinning out on any of those types of climbs. Like
Interesting.
Yeah. So I thought that was interesting, having that 3 settings from firm to pedal to full open.
So as you hit the ledgy part, the suspension support's coming on.
It's
or turning off.
Turning off. Yeah. Which I actually like, because a lot of times at the end of those climbs and you're trying to like get over that last little thing is when my rear wheel has to spin out.
Yeah. Interesting.
So I noticed it first coming out of Laguna Wilderness at the end of one of the trails. There's kind of a super steep pitch. And then at the very top of it, the last move is a little ledge. That's where I spin out sometimes. So that's what I was actually thinking, am I going to like this on the transitions to descending? But I found that I really like it mostly on the climbs.
Do you think maybe you're a little more likely to, if you have a lockout lever, to use it than I am?
Very much so.
Yeah. Yeah, I tend not to use them.
Yeah, and I tend to use them all the time. And so I kind of thought about, I didn't realize this when I bought the Flight Attendant, but now that I think about it, I really appreciate that the default is open, and that it is opening up on the climbs at these moments, because that default is catering to my weakness. It's helping. I'd rather than be firm all the time climbing, because I do think of myself as a stronger climber than a descender. And so a lot of times I set my bikes up to be better climbers. And I actually think I should be doing the exact opposite, setting my bikes up to make me a more competent descender, because I can climb better. So it makes me a more balanced rider.
Right.
So in this particular instance, having that default open, I think actually really helps on the climb, and I really like it. So,
what makes sense to me about that is, if I was going to be in the wrong setting for a second, sometimes I'd rather give up a tiny bit of like pedaling efficiency due to being in the wrong setting for a second once in a while, than give up suspension performance at that exact moment when you probably really need the suspension to work well.
Yes.
And, by having it default to one or the other, that doesn't necessarily mean
guarantee it
that you're going to be on the right side of either one of those arguments on either one any number of times.
Right.
But intuitively, it feels like you're going to default more to being open on the bike that defaults to open.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So I really like it. I've never felt any harshness on the suspension descending. And as far as weight goes, I'm very happy that I have switched out a lot of parts on that. Maybe we can do a bike check on this someday. But it's just under 27 pounds now.
Oh, yeah. But that's good.
Yeah. So
my trance is like 30 and a half. I got to put it on a diet.
You're probably running CushCore with Zip.
I'm not.
Moto. You're not?
No.
Wow.
I'm running. I got to figure out why it's heavy. Wow. I think I know why. I'm running, I'm running Reserve 30 HD rims.
Yes.
That's part of it.
I'm exactly the opposite. I'm running.
Is that true? That might be true. I got to check that.
I'm running 28 SLs with the 180 hubs.
I love that. I should do that.
That would be. Okay, so here I have it on order with the shop. XC CushCore.
I'm curious.
So
I'm XC CushCore Curious.
Yes. So I'm running tire-wise Ardent on the front, Aspen on the back.
Ardent on the front, Aspen on the back. That's kind of gnarly to me.
Yeah.
I mean,
it is.
Especially Ardent on the front. That's a low tread tire for a front for me.
Is it Ardent? I think it's an Ardent. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I mean, they're both very, very lightweight, very low tread. Probably that's why it helps get down to 26.9 pounds. I think if I put it one up post and a lighter saddle, I could get it down even like maybe 26 and a half. But with that said, I'm really eager to try CushCore XC with the same tire setup.
Yeah. I'm curious to hear how that goes.
Yeah. So we'll see. Hopefully the CushCore comes in this week. I'll get it installed.
Neither one of us have tried CushCore XC yet, right? Yeah.
No.
I haven't.
CushCore Curious, that's a good one.
XC CushCore Curious.
XC CushCore.
Because I'm no longer CushCore Curious. I am now
XC.
I am full-blown CushCore.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I think I was kind of wondering on a bike where you're setting it up. For me, I want it capable, but I do want it pedalable. This goes against what we talked about last time. Just installing CushCore on the rear.
Right.
On this bike. Because
what about just installing it on the front?
Yeah, if I do that, I'm going to put it on both. Because I do believe that it provides you pinch flat protection.
Right.
And I think one of the big benefits is running a lower pressure.
Right.
And with these low tread tires, I think running a lower pressure is really going to help it.
Let me throw one more thing out there.
Yeah.
I think it makes the bike more efficient.
Yeah.
And better climbing traction. And so on your bike that's all climbered out and lightweight, maybe here's something here's kind of counterintuitive idea. You put it on your XC bike because it makes your XC bike faster. Because even though it's heavier, you're getting better traction on the climbs. Yeah. And that's offsetting any sort of weight problems.
Yeah.
If that's true, and if it's a true cross-country build, you do only put it on the rear because I don't think you're getting that on the front as much.
Yes.
Although you probably are getting a little bit of added efficiency on the front as it tracks better and deflects off stuff less. And really, too, those little deflections and stuff, they take a lot of energy. Yep. And when you're tired, you know it because it breaks your heart. Right?
Right. Yeah, but on the rear, the climbing traction on the rear.
Right. So the bike that's optimized for climbing, I could see doing rear only for that reason.
With the Flight Attendant, that was going to be awesome. I'm super.
Auk is psyched.
Yeah, I haven't been this excited about riding a push bike in a long time. And that, again, for those of you, that 2021 Trans X that's on sale, it's essentially the same suspension, same bike.
It's the same frame.
It's the same frame.
It's not the same suspension components, but it's the same linkage and wheel path and travel.
Correct. And I think that's also playing into why I'm really enjoying this Trans SC is it's a really plush, sportive, efficient, all those
predictable,
things.
Balanced. I really like that bike too.
Yes. And so it's obviously not coil because it's a ultimate RockShox ultimate rear shock. But man, it feels really good.
And we've talked a lot about Trans and Trans X, both 29ers. The difference is the Trans is kind of downcountry-ish with 110 travel in the back and the Trans X. And the Trans is still a good geo and a fun bike. And mine is for sure. But the Trans X is like a proper modern trail bike in my mind.
Yep.
With mid-travel 135 in the back and 150.
50, yeah.
So to me, that's on a 29-inch wheel platform, that's a proper balanced modern trail bike, lightweight trail bike.
And I really appreciate that they put the lyric on it. The lyric on the front. Because where I'm riding right now and with this bike, I could very much see riding some of the more aggressive trails that are right on this.
And you could probably put a Pike on it if you wanted to lose some more. Or no, there's no Pike 150.
Right.
I don't think.
Right. An older Pike, maybe.
Right. But that's not, yeah.
And I don't know if they have.
Do you know if your Lyric has buttercups?
I do not know.
It
might.
I think it does.
Yes.
And if it does, I think those are a pretty cool idea.
Yes.
Little squishy things on your air spring to eat small bumps.
Yes.
And take up vibration.
Yeah. I'll have to look at that. Maybe that's part of the experience as well.
I think the newest, on paper, the newest SRAM stuff seems like the smoothest, plushest it's been yet.
Right. It's kind of the leapfrogging, right?
I really liked the idea of the buttercups when I saw them on paper. And I think that my new fork has them, but I don't know. Maybe not. I think I have a 2022 fork. I should look at adding buttercups to my fork.
Yeah.
They are addable.
Oh, really?
My understanding is that you can retrofit your non-buttercup fork to buttercup.
Yeah. So, man, this Trans SE with Flight Attendant and CushCore XC might check a lot of boxes. Like, I'm really, again, where I've been riding and the enjoyment that I'm getting on the Trans SC, I can see riding down some really fun trails.
And you have it dual 29 right now?
It is dual 29 right now.
I might have to borrow it sometime.
Yes.
I kind of almost wonder if I should have built up a Trans X instead of a Trans.
Well, if we ride together, this could work out pretty well.
What cranks do you have on yours?
Oh, I do have the, they are 170s, but they're the Flight Attendant XO.
Okay. So do you have to run special cranks to run Flight Attendant?
So that's the thing. I think as long as it has that, you know how the SRAM cranks, the dub cranks have the opening in the axle. I think as long as you have that, you can put the pedal sensor into.
Okay.
So whatever cranks have that.
Any dub cranks.
Dub cranks. Right. But as long as you have, dub cranks with the open hole. I think
that's the right size.
That's the right size. Yeah,
I don't know if they're all the same or not off the top of my head, because some of them are made with different materials and
different interfaces
for dub.
Yep, I'm pretty sure
interface between
the cranks and because
like the shoulder where the
I think I have the 5 devs.
Mm-hmm.
It's a dub bottom bracket.
Mm-hmm.
But they're dual screws on the side.
Got it. Okay. Let's clarify some terms. Dub could be a 29.8 bottom bracket and like other brands might make cranks that are compatible with a dub bottom bracket.
But it's not
but with SRAM, crank. A dub system is also a specific like lock ring system.
Yep.
And so if it's a SRAM dub crank, maybe, although I think some of the different, I wouldn't be surprised if the spindle wall is thicker on some of the cheaper ones. I don't know. Speculation.
That could be. But what I was hoping for is that I could find a 160. I know they make 165 dub cranks.
Yeah. I might have some you can borrow if you want.
To try.
I have those Troy Lee branded SRAM dub cranks in 165.
Right.
You need some 160s on there.
That's really what I have. I actually have a pair of 155s with the 29.8 spindle.
You ready for that on a pedal bike?
I was going to try it, but I need a pedal sensor.
It doesn't fit in those.
Doesn't fit in those for sure.
Got it. Okay. So you've got it. Okay. I'll loan you those cranks if you want. I think they're around here somewhere.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. And I'll try. Because you don't actually have to take my understanding, you don't have to take the crank off to get to the pedal sensor.
Okay.
So
you can test the theory without changing the cranks.
Correct.
I like it.
I was also wondering, those new Hope cranks.
Mm-hmm. They look cool, and they come in lots of sizes.
If they have a 29.8 spindle with a dub size hole in the spindle.
Oh, does it fit the sensor? Yeah. Good question.
So then you could get a 160 or a 155 crank.
I think that would be a fairly big coincidence for it to fit, unless they did it on purpose, unless they knew. Yeah. Because they're like thinking about it, they're designing around the chain line, the spindle diameter, the shoulder shape, the splining, and the bolt, and how all that works. I don't think they're really designing around an inner spindle thickness to fit the standard.
Yeah.
Unless they are thinking about the torque sensors. Maybe they were.
Right.
Those people at Hope are pretty smart.
There's some hope.
There's some hope.
I don't know.
Maybe I'll try Hope brakes again someday. I liked Hope brakes.
They look cool. I've never tried them, actually.
Never. I've been going back and forth between bikes that have Shimano and SRAM right now. Uh-huh. And I'm more used to SRAM historically, but I've been riding more bikes with Shimano lately.
Right.
Saint? It's kind of trippy. Four piston XT mostly.
Oh, got it.
On my Rise in particular.
Right.
And then back to SRAM on my Rainy.
What are some of the bigger differences that you're finding?
I think at this point it's pretty well established that the Shimano brakes are grabbier and create more power at a lower force level from the finger.
Yep.
And that the SRAM brakes are kind of easier to modulate.
Yep.
And just as powerful if you pull hard enough.
Yep.
And by that, I don't mean like tons of force. I just
Right.
mean like there's a more range of braking power.
Maybe you just need to get some cheaper Shimano brakes. I'm kidding.
Or run metallic pads on the SRAMs and organics on the Shimanos just to even it out a little bit, maybe.
Yeah.
I get used to it pretty quick because of the fact that I ride a lot of bikes and go back and forth a lot. I adapt to bikes pretty quickly.
Yep. Yep.
But it is a weird moment. Like there is always a kind of a jarring, like these brakes don't work on SRAM and these brakes are too grabby on Shimano. When you switch.
Right. Yeah. That's the one thing on my jumping back to the Rain E that I think I'm going to upgrade is the brakes.
What did it come with?
I think like whatever below Dior is. It's like a 4-piston step below Dior.
Are there performance issues or are they just not fancy? There's some
It's right on the edge of performance issues.
Yeah. What rotors are they?
Let's see. 2.
I mean, are they those resin only rotors? Resin pad only rotors?
I don't think so.
They're okay.
Yeah.
Proper rotor.
A proper rotor. Oh, I didn't even realize it.
Some of the lower Shimano brakes come with a rotor that's stamped on it, like or etched on it, resin pads only.
Oh, really?
And I think, I don't know if that's what you've got.
No. I switched out the wheels.
Cool.
Yeah.
And is it power or consistency, adjustability?
Power. Yeah.
Power.
I mean, I can get it there. Just squeeze a little harder.
I wonder what the difference is. I wonder if it's like a different servo wave or.
Maybe.
It's interesting.
Maybe I just need to bleed them.
Maybe you got something's contaminated.
Maybe.
My guess would have been that those brakes are heavier and less adjustable, but just as powerful.
Interesting.
But that is just a guess.
Yeah. Maybe I'll bleed them. Do the ghetto bleed.
Do they feel really firm?
I mean, they don't feel mushy. But really firm? Not your classic, like, grabby Shimano feel, I guess.
Interesting.
It's a little, I don't know.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Is it all the time not as much power, or is it just like on longer descents when they heat up?
I feel like all the time.
All the time.
All the time.
But you can lock the wheel up. You just got to kind of
Yeah.
work it a little bit to get there.
Yeah.
Interesting. You know, one of the things that's been a lot of brake rotors are getting thicker.
Oh, I noticed that.
You know, 1.8 was kind of the width for a long time, and then 2.0, and then now I think 2.2.
2.2, yeah.
A lot of different thicknesses. I'm kind of trying to wrap my head around what works with what. I think for the most part, the thicker rotors work with most brakes.
They do.
But the brakes that are meant for thicker rotors, maybe you should run thick rotors on them.
Oh.
I'm not sure.
Well, I am running thicker rotors on this. I'm running 220 or whatever that is.
What's the idea? Better heat?
Better heat, like dissipation, or less heat accumulation.
More mass to absorb heat.
Yep. On an e-bike, why not?
Right? That makes sense.
Yeah.
And I guess really when you think about it, that's kind of a lot more.
Yeah. I mean, especially if you were on
10% more from 1.8 to 2.0, like 10% more metal to just absorb the heat. But that's a significant number. That's a noticeable amount in most kind of experiences.
No, it's 20%.
Is it? Oh, my bad.
1.8 to 2.2.
Oh, I was saying to 2.0.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, to 2.2, yeah. I think I said to 2.0.
Yeah. You're probably right. But I do
70 Newton meters.
Yeah, exactly. I have these little shim. It's like a little.
The Y-shaped ones?
Who makes it? They're not Y, but they're they're just like thin shims that you slide over your rotor and then you slide it up into the brake pads when you go to center and tighten up your caliper. So on the 2.2s, I don't think it was made for a 2.2.
Yeah. You don't need it because the rotor takes up all that space.
That's true.
Yeah. I remember we used to make those out of kind of like tin snips and sheet metal.
Yes.
The little shims just breaks up.
Yep.
It's interesting that it helps.
It's interesting that it helps.
Yeah.
But it does.
I know. But it's interesting. I'm not totally clear why.
Yeah, like it's so easy.
I know it helps.
Yeah. Especially when they're connected and you don't have to have two little pieces trying to, oh my gosh. Anyways. So yeah, I've been really enjoying both the pedal bike and the e-bike.
I've been mostly enjoying the e-bike lately, but I'm going to get some pedal bike rides in again soon.
Yeah. Well, if you ever get out on a whim type of bike ride, give me a call.
Will do.
Probably won't line up, but that's okay. Keep trying.
Well, it will eventually.
It will.
It might not be as soon as we want.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Anyway,
we do ride together.
We actually do. To you guys out there, we talk about it all the time. We do ride together.
All right. Is that a show?
I think it is.
All right. Thanks, Auk. Thanks, actually. One more thing before we get off the show. We did fill the position, right, for media content creator. And Jake is here tonight, and he's doing awesome. And we're super stoked that Jake is here. So thank you, Jake. Thank you, Auk. Thank you, listeners. Thanks to the crew at the Path, and thanks to everyone we work with. And let's all remember to love the bike we ride.